Happy Thursday. Tonight's the night. Thyroid webinar, par excellence. Tonight, 8 o'clock Central Time. Talking all about the thyroid gland, the wonderful thyroid gland, what it does, what it doesn't do, what it does when it's healthy, what it doesn't do when it's healthy, and how your MD got it wrong again. The validity of lab testing for thyroid, what tests are good, what tests are bad, which tests your MDs use. Take a guess. Is the MD going to use the good test or the bad test? I'll let you sort that one out. That's tonight, 8 o'clock Central Time. 8 o'clock Central Time, right here on fireyourmdnow.com. In order to access this webinar, you have to be a subscription holder, so check it out. $17 a month. If you're already a subscription holder, tell everybody in your downline, everybody in your family. Tell your enemies about this. I don't care. Tell everybody in your life about this. Send them the URL via email, and I will look to see you there tonight, 8 o'clock Central Time, talking all about the thyroid. Now it's Thursday, so you know what that means. Kicking it with the commander time. Very, very happy to reintroduce and welcome back Mark Denning, RN, who is the king of the Facebook, by the way, the Wellness Warriors. If you know anything about the Wellness Warriors, well, that's Mark Denning. We tried to talk to Mr. Denning last week, but we got cut off because of a bad signal that I had on my end in Charlotte, North Carolina. So happy to have him back with us. Hey, Mark, welcome back. Thanks for coming.
No problem, Dr. G. You know the best way to defeat your enemy, right?
How's that?
Make him your friend.
Well, there you go.
Abraham Lincoln, bro. Abraham Lincoln said that.
Abraham Lincoln, the best way to defeat your enemy is to make him your friend. I like that very much. I think I could use a little bit more of that in my life, honestly. Although, you know, it's hard to turn the other cheek. I am more of the inclination to go a little crazy with the money lenders at the temple than I am to turn the other cheek. I think there's a time in the world for both strategies. Hey, listen, so last week, before we got cut off, right, we're talking about, by the way, for the listening audience, Mark Denning, the head of the Wellness Warriors, is an RN. He's a multi-year veteran of the Army, and he's the guy in the back of the ambulance keeping you alive while it's taking you to the emergency room. How many years under your belt do you have with conventional medicine, Mark?
26 as a nurse, over 30 in the other, like being a medic and working in the OR. So yeah, it's a long time, right? So we were talking last week, and it was fascinating to me that one of the problems that's happening right now, and which is especially troubling considering the type of work that you do every day, is the drug shortages and the lack of drugs that's happening in the world right now. Fill me in a little bit about what's going on there. Well, you know, the government is so regulatory about drugs and such, and we have to do inventories every so often. And when the drugs expire, you get rid of them. So what we're finding out is that every month something else comes down the pipe that says, well, there's going to be a shortage of this drug, and we'll have to use this one instead, or we'll just have to adapt and do something another way. I mean, some of the drugs that were, just case in point the other day, I took a trauma patient who fell and hurt his head, and we got to the trauma center, and they said, well, we can't get that medicine in the ER. They're only giving it to the patients in the OR to help sedate this guy, to help alleviate his pain, reduce pressure in his head, things like that. It was like, you got to be kidding me. This is a major trauma center. I was like, well, just keep the bottle that we have that we've given you from the other hospital and use that one. You'll have to respike that one because this guy was suffering. And, one of the other things I did, and we were talking earlier about this, I went and looked, raw materials for medication. We're running out because too many people are sick. And you and I and the Wellness Warriors are all out there, and we know why. But nobody's stepping up to the plate. even in the Huffington Post today, it said, especially drugs with attention deficit disorder. I mean, if you know your kid has ADHD and you can't get the drugs, are you going to go out to notice somebody who knows that has drugs? Are you going to start stealing them from them? Are you going to beat them up? What are you going to do? I mean, this is crazy. I just went through the list. The Center for Disease Control, the FDA, put out a list of all the drug shortages and what's coming down the pipe, and it's going to severely limit or change the way we practice what we do. I practice what I do for now because Dr. Glidden says, I come from both worlds. Recover my health naturally, but still having to deal with the Western world. So,
well, and let's put it in perspective, right? Because we talk about this all the time. The proper place for MD-directed therapeutics is what you do. It's emergency medicine and trauma care. That's where the domain is. That's the wheelhouse of the MD. And if they just limited themselves to those modalities, it would be a much better world. Where things start to go south is when MDs try to do everything, and of course, they can't, because their modality, their philosophy of healing is best suited for trauma and for surgery when it's necessary, and a handful of infectious diseases. But what you're telling me is even in the domain of trauma care, which really is their wheelhouse, their specialty, what they're really good at, they're running out of drugs, they're running out of the raw materials to make the drugs because so many people need to use the drugs. Well, so many people don't need to use the drugs, but the system is collapsing under its own weight, because the therapeutics that these guys deliver really aren't the best therapeutics, and so people need more and more drugs instead of less and less. People are getting sicker and sicker instead of better and better, and the entire thing is starting to come apart at the seams. I mean, from your point of view, Mark, having, being in the driver's seat of the ambulance for the last however many decades, what type of incidents are you seeing? Are you seeing, is it the same amount of people that you have to transport to the ER every year? Does it get less every year? Does it get more every year? How's that shaken down from a pragmatic point of view, from your point of view?
Well, I started on the ambulance as a critical care transport nurse, which is like a flight nurse on the ground, in about 2001. In the group that I work with, in 2003, when I started full-time, we were maybe doing 200 calls a month amongst 4 or 5 ambulances, right? Now it's gone to the point where we're doing 800 a month. 800. And, and the number of strokes, the number of heart attacks, the people that can't breathe on their own, it's staggering. Hospitals are just devoted to people on ventilators. I mean, back in the day, what did they do? They didn't have people to stand there and squeeze the bag because they didn't have the machines to do it. So I guess more people, weren't that sick, right? And now that we have access to all this, it's given us it gives me a headache, man. A headache of biblical proportions. And I'm a very heartfelt guy. My heart goes on my sleeve every time I take care of somebody because I treat them like family, no matter what, if they're awake, if they're not, if their families are having trouble. My job encompasses a whole lot more, and I learn more about a patient in 5 minutes than sometimes the staff does in 3 weeks.
Right.
And for me to gather that in 5 or 10 minutes, synthesize it, and then have a family member that's upset, and if something were to happen in the back of the ambulance where we had to deal with, blood pressure, pulse, whatever, breathing issue, you got a family member in the front seat going with, and they're getting excited about it, and, I have to go and preempt them. I said, we may have to do some things for your family member that may sound funny to you, but just hang in there. We're going to do the best we can do with what we have.
So things are getting worse, right? 200 runs a month a number of years ago. Now it's up to 800 runs a month, and this is because conventional Western medicine, as it's delivered here in the United States, as it's delivered in all major industrialized nations around the world, doesn't work. What do you mean, Dr. G, it doesn't work? Well, it doesn't work because it doesn't fix anything. It just patches over holes. It's like painting over the mold in the basement. So as more time goes by, the people that you patched are getting worse instead of getting better. And that becomes like compound interest, right? I mean, it's only a matter of time until the mold comes back. It's only a matter of time until the heart gets worse. It's only a matter of time until the lungs get worse, and then they're back in the system, back in your ride, back in the emergency room, putting more and more stress on the health, the disease management system here. I mean, really, I think it's probably relatively quickly reaching a point of no return. What do you think about that? How long do you think before the whole thing collapses?
A year at the max. Probably less.
Yeah, well, look, Obama said it in his State of the Union address a couple of weeks ago that the leading stress on the economy is health care. But because these people only know what they know and they don't know what they don't know, and because the pharmaceutical companies have pulled the wool over everybody's eyes for the last 100 years, people think that it's the system that needs to be fine-tuned, it's the system that needs to be tweaked, it's the drug companies need to be reeled in, the insurance companies need to be reeled in. Well, all of that's well and good, but even if all of that happened, the system is still the system, and the system doesn't work. And this is our message from start to finish. The system doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we have such unbelievably poor health outcomes here in the United States. It's why medical care in the United States is a leading cause of bankruptcy, it's a leading cause of death, and it is the leading strain on our economy, because MD-directed allopathic reductionistic pharmaceutical modalities for chronic disease don't work. But because they monopolize the industry, nobody knows that there are other ways. Nobody knows that there are other ways. And the pharmaceutical companies certainly don't want you to know what we know. And this is what we're up against every day. I talk about this every day. And now we've got Mark Denning coming along saying, look, man, it's getting worse. He's in the ambulance. He sees it firsthand. No drugs. Everybody's getting worse. More people needing to be transported. Where will it end? Well, I don't know where it's going to end, but I know where we begin. We begin with longevity. Dr. Peter Glidden here talking to Mark Denning, RN, the founder and leader of the Wellness Warriors. He's all over Facebook all the time. Mark, so on the one hand, we've got the pharmaceutical industry and the budgets of states and counties not being able to keep up with the need for emergency drugs, right? And on the other hand, we've got an increase in antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Let's talk about that next.
Yeah, how about that? I just heard something coming down the pipe the other day. About a new one. It's carbapenem-resistant organism. And it all started out with something that sounded like a food chain. It was called KPC, and it's still out there. People get this pneumonia, and it's usually hospital-acquired infections. But then one of them that was really drug-resistant, I know you know this one, the Syntobacter, came from Iraq as we brought our soldiers back that were injured, and it just colonized in the United States, and it's rampant. It's rampant. And that's also multi-drug resistant as well. You always say, I know you used the phrase, and get a gut check. So I've been on a mission lately about the gut and how important our guts are. I mean, you and Dr. Wallach, hands down, thank you so much for saving my life. I could not imagine where I would be if I was still on blood thinners.
Yeah, you had quite a story. I mean, how much Coumadin were you on at one point in time?
12 milligrams a day.
that's enough to kill an elephant, for goodness sake.
That's right. If the rats would bite me, they would die. I'm sure I would have had a job for me.
Yeah. That's a lot, man. Well, it's remarkable, right, what happens here. But look, so here's the deal. So we don't really, I think, spend enough time dialing all of this in for folks, but from the proper perspective, everything makes sense. The human body is like this complex system of interrelated gears, right? Like this big Newtonian machine. And all these cogs and all these gears fit together beautifully, and in the dance of life, everything's going round and round the way that it should. And then you throw a drug into that system, and it's just like throwing a chain into the gearworks, and it's gonna have a net negative effect somewhere, and oftentimes the net negative effects are not what we would expect. So the pharmaceutical industry comes up with a brand new antibiotic. Hallelujah, everybody says, oh, this is the best thing ever, a new antibiotic, right? And then 5 years later, nature responds by bacteria evolving to be resistant to that drug. And now we've got a bigger problem, and this is what's coming down the pike now. So it's, so these drug-resistant bacteria are springing up left, right, and center, which I'm assuming is making somebody's visit to the hospital a little more problematic now than it ever used to be. Is that right?
Exactly. And everybody's got to have cultures drawn and culture your blood, culture your urine, culture your throat, culture your nose. Every time you go in the hospital, they shove a swab up your nose. You're admitted to the hospital so that they can rule out if you have insulin-resistant Staph aureus. Oh, this is going to tickle a little bit. Sure, go ahead. I'm like, so whoever patented the cotton swab is making trillions of dollars.
Yeah, unintended consequences of pharmaceutical medicine, and this is another thing that just gives me pause, because all of these disease-resistant bacteria are cropping up, which is leading to more money spent by the patient just from going to the hospital. So now there's all these other tests that the hospital has to run just to make sure you don't have the disease-resistant bacteria, the antibiotic-resistant bacteria that they created in the first place, and we give them a pass, right? We don't criticize them. Can you imagine what would happen? I mean, if a chiropractor somewhere, or a naturopath gave one patient, a bunch of herbs and created a new strain of disease or antibiotic-resistant bacteria. I mean, come on. It's nonsense. But the MDs do it, and guess what we do? We give them a pass, right? We give them a pass over and over and over again. Now, hang out with me here, Commander. We're coming up against a hard break. You can stick with me for 5 more minutes into the next segment. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
All right, Skipper, keep your hat on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. This is Fire Your MD Now. We're talking to Mark Denning, RN. We're going to have more horror stories from the backseat of the ambulance coming up after this, which should give you pause and give you, help you reinvest your intention to fire your MD Now. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. Stick around. Mark Denning's here with me. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Peter Glidden, your friendly neighborhood naturopath, welcoming you to another live edition of Fire Your MD Now. Tonight's webinar, accessible only via subscription, is on thyroid health. Tell everybody in your family, everybody in your life about it. Get them there, 8 o'clock Central Time. We always have a ton of fun in the webinars. We had a live chat this morning, and we had a guy in the live chat room. We're from Portugal. How about that? We're worldwide, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you love the internet? Portugal is awesome. You see that all the time on Facebook, too, with the Wellness Warriors, Mark. You've got people from all over the world there.
Amen. We've been very impactful with people all over from Canada, Australia, England. Love, David Brick and the gang out there, doing just a heck of a job on Doc Wallach and Doc Wallach's mission, that we support so incredibly that, if you haven't figured it out by now, that you need to just take charge of your own health, because the government is not going to save you, ladies and gentlemen. They are not going to save you. Take charge of your own health, clean up your diet, follow Dr. Glidden, Dr. Wallach, and just, seek us out for advice and for information. We'll give you reliable, it's scientifically based, it's clinically verified, and I just say it works,
Yeah,
but
well,
some people want more, like those warriors, Peter, like Dr. G, those warriors, that, they are just like sponges out there.
The wellness warriors?
Oh, yeah, they're just sponges. They want to know more. They are taking it to levels that I was like, whoa, I need more Renew IQ every day.
Yeah, right. This is the thing, right? Because, and this is the wonderful thing about Dr. Wallach's message, because all that's necessary to have a successful longevity business, all that's necessary to show people what we're up to and get people to try what we're up to, is to just tell the truth. There's no conflation here. There's no inflation. There's no manipulation of data. We don't do, smoke and mirrors research like the drug companies do. We just tell it like it is. And the truth has a particular ring to it. And then when people actually get into action and do what we tell them to do, they feel so much better that then the word starts to spread like wildfire. And then, once you get a little bit of a good thing, you want more of it. You want more of it. You want more of it. So that's why the Facebook Wellness Warriors group is growing like a weed. That's why the subscriptions to my online health recovery programs are growing like weed. That's why longevity went up 400% in 1 year. I mean, it's remarkable what's happening here, and it all revolves around one simple thing. Just tell the truth, and people respond. Tell the truth, and people respond. So, Mark, it's always a pleasure having you with us here. Give me a parting shot for the listening audience. Give me a parting shot. Anything you'd like to say?
One, join Dr. Glidden's site. $17 is a drop in the bucket compared to what you're paying for your health insurance right now. Don't trust the government with your health care. Trust yourself. Trust Dr. Wallach. Trust Dr. Glidden. And clean up your gut. We'll talk about that next week. Cleaning up the gut, because that's where all these big bugs are coming from. Somehow it's getting in our bloodstream, and we know why, but your doctor will never tell you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mark Denning. Thanks so much, Mark. It's always a pleasure. I'll look forward to seeing you. Same bat time, same bat station next week. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Roger that, Dr. Glidden. Go get them.
Don't worry, I will. Ladies and gentlemen, up next, right now, we're going to the phones. We have a full phone board. Looks like Michelle from North Dakota is calling in. Hey, Michelle, thanks for calling. You are live. Hello, Michelle. Hello, there you are, Michelle. How can I help? Thanks for calling.
Great. I'm exclusively breastfeeding 2 children. One is 7 months old and 2.5 years old with a heart valve leak, and I'm kind of monitoring her for enlargement from her heart valve leak, maybe if it enlarges over the time for 6 months of her life.
Okay.
Or 6 years, I'm sorry. 6 years. And my head hurts a lot. I'm fatigued. I've got eye floaters, back pain, dehydration, fatigue, constipation. And I'm just starting the Healthy Start Pack, but I haven't really cued into the new diet yet.
All right. So, you've got the wrong doctor illness. You've got the wrong doctor disease. You've got all these things going on with you, and you're going from bad to worse. And the MDs, God bless them, I guess. They've got nothing for you. They've got no advice. You listen to what they tell you to. You get worse and worse and worse. And what's going on here? What the heck are you giving them hard-earned money for every month in the form of medical insurance premiums? I don't know why we do that, because we're, afraid. I think that's why we do it. So with something like this, Michelle, what this set of symptoms speaks to me about is just initially chronic, undiagnosed, multiple nutrient deficiencies. Your body's just really running on fumes here. So for the first 90 days, what I would recommend that you do is be very diligent every day about providing your body with the 90 essential nutrients necessary for health. That's the only thing you need to do, and, of course, clean up the diet. And what we're attempting to do here is fill up your body's nutritional tank. Now, you don't really have a nutritional tank, but it's a good example. It's a good metaphor. And if or when you eat the 10 bad foods, especially wheat, barley, rye, and oats, it effectively punches little holes in the bottom of your nutritional tank. So you take the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, you take the Osteo FX Plus, you take the EFA Plus, and your body absorbs maybe 10, 20, 30% of it, but it leaks out 70% before it got in. Why? Because you're punching holes in your nutrient tank with all the wrong food. So you wouldn't go to the gas station and fill up your gas tank if it had a little hole in the bottom of it. You wouldn't do that. So my recommendation is, as an experiment, right? As an experiment, just to give yourself kind of a slap up the side of the head and see and really have personal experience here. Eliminate wheat, barley, rye, and oats from your diet completely for 10 days in a row. I don't even want you to look at wheat, barley, rye, and oats for 10 days. Don't even have a crouton. Zero tolerance for wheat, barley, rye, and oats for 10 days like your life depended on it. Continue to take the supplements. And then on day 11, all I want you to do is eat wheat, barley, rye, and oats, right? Have pancakes for breakfast, have bagel for lunch, have pasta, cookies, crackers, donuts. Just go crazy for gluten on day 11 and see how that makes you feel. Like Dr. Phil said, right? How's that working for you, right? And as God is my witness, if you do that, you will have a negative experience of something in your body will get worse. Something will get noticeably worse. Now, there are about 15 to 20% of people in the United States, we think, this again is a guesstimate, that are okay with wheat, barley, rye, and oats. You might be one of them, but I don't think so, not based on your symptoms. But, like the fella said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it. And it doesn't matter how much I say it. What's going to make a bigger difference to you is your own experience of it. And I'm telling you, Michelle, you don't know what you don't know. And in this domain, the proof of the pudding really is in the eating. So eliminate the wheat, barley, rye, and oats for 10 days. Continue to take your supplements, all right? And then on day 11, go crazy for gluten. And on day 12, call me back and tell me what happened. I want to hear. I want to hear from you on day 12 or 13. I don't care. Anytime after day 11, call me back and report to the radio community what happened. I would love to hear that report. Are you up for that? Does that sound like a plan, Michelle?
Yes, you're on. No problem.
All right. So the only other thing that I would add, are you taking any selenium at all?
I'm not.
All right. So that's pretty important, not only for your health, but for the child's health, for the baby's health. So what I would add to your program, get a bottle of selenium and take 3 a day. That's a good place to start. 3 selenium a day, 1 with breakfast, 1 with lunch, 1 with dinner, in addition to the Healthy Start Pack. You're doing a Healthy Start Pack a month, is that right?
Yep.
All right, you go, girl. So try the diet. Call me back after day 11, and then we're going to have a real conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome very much. I appreciate the phone call. Looks like we have time for one more in this segment. Sandy from Kansas is up next. Hey, Sandy, thanks for calling. You are live.
Okay, I've called you several times, and I'm pretty excited about the results I'm starting to feel just in a 2 to 3 week period of time. Now, I told Matt Tokoff when I was before I called you that if this continues to go like I think it's going to go and believe it's going to go, I'm going to send you one of my best-selling shirts, Live Your Life So the Preacher Won't Have to Lie at Your Funeral. You're going to love the shirt. Everybody buys it. It's amazing.
All right, now, Sandy, I'm going to stop you right there. Listen, before we continue, and we're going to continue, have I spoken to you off the air, or did I preempt this call? So this is a total cold call. I have no idea what you're about to say, right?
Well, no, not on this one, but I talked to you. You got the picture of my toe from Matt Tokoff. He sent it to you, and you sent it to Dr. Wallach, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct. But I have no idea what you're going to tell me as far as the positive improvement. We haven't, No. I've only talked to you 4 times, and that's all about my issues, my blood sugar, my diabetes. All right, well, give me the good news. Give me the good report. What's happening?
Well, this morning I haven't taken my medication today yet, and my blood sugar came to 113, then it went to 125 earlier after eating something. I'm feeling better. I'm taking Sweeties, 4 tablets a day. The Daily Ultimate, 2 tablets a day. The Ultimate Selenium, 12 tablets a day. The Glucogel, 20 tablets a day. The enzymes, 1 to 2 a day. The EFA Plus, about 6 a day. Plus the tangy tangerine. You think I'm sick taking all these things, but I think it's doing good for me. And the OsteoFX, Matt has helped me tremendously get on the right product. But I've got friends that we just ordered some Sweeties, some, let's see, Sweeties, the pack, the sweet pack.
Yeah, the healthy blood sugar pack? Yeah.
Healthy blood, yeah. He's got, he's a great friend of mine, and he's got diabetes. He takes insulin. His wife is listening to this call now because I called her and said, I'm going to be on the phone. I want you to hear it. He's got high blood pressure. He's got neuropathy in his foot and came down with a little pneumonia. And he's excited about getting started, but he didn't know what it was going to do, so he decided to start real small. I'm not as concerned about myself a little bit. I'm more concerned about people that I call that say, get off gluten, anything with gluten. And some of the people say my wife don't want to get off gluten. So there's not much I can do about that.
All right, so there is a workaround for that, and I want you to stick with me through the break. We're coming up against the hard breaks, Sandy, so hang out with me on the other side. We're going to pick this up. But one thing you can do is get a copy of Dr. Wallach's latest audio CD. It's called Serial Killer. That's cereal, C-E-R-E-A-L, like cereals, like, Cheerios, right? Serial Killer. When you hear it from the expert, it's a lot easier to accept it. That's what I would recommend you do. Don't try to become the expert. Take people to the expert. Hook them up with Dr. Wallach's CD. I'm talking to Sandy from Kansas. Now, Sandy, you've got type 2 diabetes. Now, tell me again, please, what your most recent experience of your blood sugars has been with our medical nutrition program. What's going on with your numbers?
Well, the numbers have gone down quite a bit. I feel better. But the biggest thing I've got, the blood sugar, I believe, is going to go. I'm going to get rid of my medication for that. The biggest thing I'm trying to get rid of is my gout. And you said I can get rid of my gout on the air the last time we talked about that. I've got what the doctor calls, I went to a rheumatologist. I showed him everything I'm taking. The glucogel, he's in Kansas City. I showed him everything I was taking. I took it in. He said, there's nothing on there that I can see that would be harmful. He said, I can only tell you it looks like it's good as long as there's no aspirin in any of it. And I said, well, I know there's not that. The acid that I have that causes gout, that keeps my gout number up. I forgot.
Yeah, the uric acid, right? Uric acid.
He said there's no uric acid in it. He said all this stuff looks really good. I gave him some samples of the tangy tangerine, and my classic gout is what he talks about. He said I've got a lot of gout granules in my system that isn't letting it's not getting out. I can't get it out. It won't release.
All right, well, look. All right, so here's the deal. So how long have you had gout?
Oh, 20 years.
How long have you had type 2 diabetes?
Probably about maybe 10 or 12 years, somewhere in that. Because I eat the wrong stuff.
Well, look, man, here's the way. You got to understand it from the proper perspective. Everything makes sense. There's something in holistic medicine called Herring's Law of Cure. This is named after a very famous homeopathic physician of the 19th century, Constantine Herring. He was like the Albert Einstein of homeopathic medicine, and homeopathy is a subset of holistic medicine, right? Constantine Herring was a big deal. And Herring made the observation after treating thousands of patients that once you get on board with the proper curative or treatment, a therapy that supports and promotes the structure and function of the human body and gives the body the ability to recover its health, will optimize its health. Often what happens is the most recent illnesses get better first, followed by the stuff that you've had the longest. The stuff that you've had the longest is the stuff that's going to get better last. It's like the body goes back in time. So the blood sugar issue is the most recent issue. So it's the blood sugar issue that should start to resolve initially, and that's what's happening to you. Now, you know, the next thing that's going to start to happen, your body is going to start to get on the other side of the gouty condition. It's already starting to get on the other side of the gouty condition, but the body takes care of things in a slow and steady, stepwise fashion. It's like watching a flower grow, or, you know, like watching ice melt in the springtime. But the thing you need to understand here, Sandy, and this is the hardest thing for people to get, you know, we're so used to the quick fix with conventional pharmaceutical medicine. You've got the headache, you take the Tylenol, and 20 minutes later the headache's gone. Comes back 3 hours later, but in 20 minutes it's gone. There's a difference between mitigating and managing symptoms with drugs and fixing the system of the body with medical nutrition. A fix takes a lot longer than it takes longer to fix the mold than just to paint over it. So look, everything happens in steps, and the first thing that we look for, you know, in the first 90 days is something. We want to see something get better somewhere in a noticeable and measurable fashion. Now, that's already happened with your blood sugar, so that lets us know that we're on the right track. So the only thing necessary for you to do here, Sandy, to really, you know, support and promote your body's ability to fix itself here, is to just maintain the discipline and be patient. Just maintain the discipline and be patient, because this will roll around for you eventually. And again, the gouty condition is, of course, when there's a gouty condition, we look to the liver, to supporting and promoting the structure and function of the liver, and that's a good thing, because you can physically remove, I think, 70-something% of the liver. You can cut it out. You could go in and cut 70% more or less of somebody's liver out, and it'd grow back. It'd grow back. The liver is a remarkable organ, and it will come around, Sandy. We just got to give it more time. All you need to do is maintain the discipline. Now, a month or two from now, there's going to be, once the blood sugar's been stable for a longer period of time, I'm going to add something into the bargain here in order to, you know, speed up the resolution of the gouty condition to support and promote the structure and function of your liver. We'll talk about that in the future. In the meantime, just maintain the discipline. You're doing a fantastic job. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. Stick around. We're going to take your phone calls at the beginning of the next segment, coming up in about 7 minutes. Thanks so much.